هذا خلق الله فأروني ماذا خلق الذين من دونه بل الظالمون في ضلال مبين ولقد آتينا لقمان الحكمة أن اشكر لله ومن يشكر فإنما يشكر لنفسه ومن كفر فإن الله غني حميد وإذ قال لقمان لابنه وهو يعظه يا بني لا تشرك بالله إن الشرك لظلم عظيم ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه حملته أمه وهنا على وهن وفصاله في عامين أن اشكر لي ولوالديك إلي المصير وإن جاهداك على أن تشرك بما ليس لك به علم فلا تطعهما وصاحبهما في الدنيا معروفا واتبع سبيل من أناب إلي ثم إلي مرجعكم فأنبئكم بما كنتم تعملون يا بني إنها إن تك مثقال حبة من خردل فتكن في صخرة أو في السماوات أو في الأرض يأتي بها الله إن الله لطيف خبير صدق الله العلي العظيم.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Thank you, Brother Mohsen, for that beautiful recitation. My condolences to you all as we commemorate the martyrdom of our beloved fourth Imam, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. As we all know, Imam Sajjad was very well known for his strength, his unparalleled resilience, his patience, despite going through the most difficult of trials. And inshallah, we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps us develop those same traits in our own selves as we commemorate this ayyam, his life and his martyrdom. But especially that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants those traits to our brothers and sisters in all over the world who are going through difficult trials and tribulations as a result of the oppressors of our time, specifically in Palestine, in Parachinar, in Lebanon, Iran. Please recite a salawat for their well-being by Muhammad wa al Muhammad. Please recite a second salawat. They requested us to come as close up front as possible by Muhammad wa al Muhammad. There's a request also for a Fatiha for the marhumin who sponsored this majlis. Syed Imtiaz Hussein, Sayyida Akhtarunisa Begum, Syed Ghulam Abbas, Syed Akhtar Hussein, Syed Akhtar Abbas, Syed Sabit Hussein, Syed Masood Abbas Amanullah, Syed Sajanland Mazhar Sultana, Ghazamfar Ali Khan, Badr Unisa Begum, Syed Sughra, Shabr Ali Khan, Muhammad Abbas, all the marhumin of the Rizvi and Khan family, and all the shuhada of Islam, bil khusus shuhada Parachinar. Please recite a Fatiha. Bismillah. Quick reminder that we'll continue our Sajadiya Ayyams this week. We'll be continuing with our English program indoors starting on Thursday, and that'll go through Saturday. Farsi will begin tomorrow night, Wednesday night, and that'll go through Friday. And Urdu Majalis will be from Thursday, and that'll go through Sunday, inshallah. For tonight, we're very blessed to have with us our dear guest scholar. It was much too short of a stay, but we very much hope to have you back with us again soon. Please help me welcome up our dear guest scholar, Maulana Syed Zeshum Ahmed, with a loud salawat par Muhammad wa al Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين روحي وأرواحنا لتراب مقدمه الفداء فقد قال الله في كتابه المجيد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يريدون أن يطفئوا نور الله بأفواههم ويأبى الله إلا أن يتم نوره والله كره الكافرون صدق الله العلي العظيم صل على محمد. For the hastening of the reappearance of our Imam, please recite a louder salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. And to the extent of our devotion and our love for Abu Abdullah al-Hussein and our desire to join the caravan of Karbala, please recite the loudest of salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum jami'an. Before I go to speaking, there's a couple of recent events that happened personally. I mean, they don't just affect me as a person, but inshallah a few others as well. One of them was that when I first came here, I think the day before yesterday, I needed to get a haircut. And so I asked my cousin who I was staying with to sort of set an appointment up. And alhamdulillah, he had a friend who does this as a business and goes to people's house and cuts people's hair. Unfortunately, just learned that just a few hours after he cut our hair and left our house that he was in a car accident and passed away. And this young brother who was, very, very polite brother, and I just met him for just, a few, maybe an hour or so. But it just, strikes you that there's these people, who can be full of life in one moment, and in the next, they won't be there. And it's a reminder, it's definitely a reminder for ourselves that we have to take advantage of the opportunities in front of us. That our time here is limited, and nobody, not a single person, no matter how rich, no matter how powerful, can extend their stay beyond what has been assigned to them on this world. And yes, alhamdulillah, that we have iman in the next world, and that gives us strength to move forward, motivation, hope for something beyond, right? But we can't sink into that to the extent that it lets us, be paralyzed, that we don't move forward. No, we need to take advantage of every moment. Right? Youth is not a protection against death. Right? It happens to everyone around us, and it's something that we're saddened to see happen, right in front as well. A second person that I'd like to mention, there is a great scholar who just recently passed away in Iran. One of the last remaining close students of Allama Tabatabai. His name was Ayatollah Bakhshi. He also passed away yesterday. He's someone that being in his presence, was definitely an honor for myself. And, I can't say that I took advantage of him in the way that I should have. But there's some scholars, right? True scholars, right? Not the people like myself who just come here, but true scholars who actually walk the walk and do and act and live and breathe Islam. It's as if their presence has a weight to it, and everything they do, they might just be sitting there and you might be in their presence for just a few moments. They might just say a few words, but it has that capacity to change you and change your lives. And definitely he was one of those people, and his losses will definitely be felt, especially by his family and those who are close to him, but also by any student who had the opportunity to go and meet him and benefit from his words and from his knowledge. There's a hadith that says that whenever a scholar passes, it makes a hole which can never be filled, and it's definitely something that can be felt by anyone who has met this great scholar. So for his sake, for this young mu'min brother's sake who just passed away, please recite another Surah Fatiha. Bismillah. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah. What we had started to talk about yesterday was the idea that our relationship and our understanding of who we are in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that actual reality of who we are in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if we were to put it within our hearts and truly understand it, then it would have an immediate effect on our actions and what we do in a day-to-day lives. And sometimes, or maybe many times, it's difficult for us to gauge our own beliefs or the strength of our own convictions and what we actually say that we believe in. But what we can do is see our actions, right? We can test our actions, and they are maybe a more honest sort of display of what we truly believe. And that's something that you can see in any sort of aspect of our lives. That when we are doing something, it is in correspondence to what we see and what we believe to be real. For example, right, if you have, let's say there's this, bottle right in front of me. If I believe, 100% that, either this bottle or this bottle, one of these two bottles of water has a poison in it that will kill me. Right? If I know that, right, that one of these two will do. I can't tell which one it is, but one of these two does. Then for sure I won't drink either one of them. Right? It doesn't matter, to me what else, but that risk is too great for me. I won't do it because that risk is real. I know it to be true, and so I'll avoid it. What happens a lot of times is that the way that we treat our religion is sometimes not to that extent of realness. It's not that tangible to us yet. Right? And that's what we want to seek to improve within ourselves. We want to go to the next step. We want to go beyond the level that we're at right now and continue to push forward. And everyone has this, right? Nobody, no matter where and how great they are, still has much, much more that they can achieve. And so that's what we want to look in within ourselves, is to find the ability to push beyond where we've placed ourselves right now and achieve something even more and greater. Now, the reality is that the more we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and understand who we're in front of, the more that gives us our motivation to move forward. And this is something that people commonly ask, is that, okay, if that's the case, then how do I increase my ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? How do I increase my awareness of Him? How do I increase knowing truly that I'm His servant? And in reality, the real ultimate answer to that question is simple, is that we have to do what is wajib and avoid what's haram. Right? And that is the key base reality of how we can improve our understanding. People don't like hearing that, right? People want to hear that there's this, secret special course you can take, that there is, these, complicated a'mal that you can do, and then, all of a sudden the curtains will open and everything will be seen and the mysteries of life will become clear. But the reality is that no, we have to do the hard work. We have to go through the day-to-day grind of being observant of our duties in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is the ultimate way that we can gain things and push forward. Yes, courses, teachers, knowledge, a'mal that we can do in special days, they all play a part. And we should do that and concentrate on that as well. But they're like, the extra, the icing on top, right? The baseline necessity is the wajibat and the haram. Now, we talked about our understanding of the reality of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and various attributes that He has, and how that has a corresponding understanding of how the opposite of those attributes are in our hands and can be characterized as our attributes. But there's other things too that we have to realize, right? There's other things about the reality of our stay and duration within this world. There's an ayah in the Quran that says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إن في خلق السماوات والأرض واختلاف الليل والنهار لآيات لأولي الألباب. So certainly in the creation of the heavens and the earth and the exchanging of the night and the day, there are signs for those who have an intellect. Right? And it continues, the next ayah continues saying, الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم. As the ones, it's describing who are these ones who have the intellect? The ones who remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when they're standing, when they're seated, and when they're on their sides. Right? Not only that, they don't stop there. وَيَتَفَكَّرُونَ فِي خَلْقِ السَّمَوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. They think, they ponder about the creation of the heavens and the earth. And they don't stop there. They have a conclusion. They say, رَبَّنَا مَا خَلَقْتَ هَذَا بَاطِلًا. Say that, our Lord, there's no way you made this in vain. All of this thing that you've created, there must be a purpose. There must be a purpose. Subhanaka fakina adhab an-nar. Right? So they determine not only that there is a God, not only that there is a Lord, that there is someone who is in charge of their affairs and the affairs of the whole universe, but they also determine that there's a purpose. There's something to be achieved. There is existential, real, ontological meaning that exists in the cosmos. And I have to attain it, I have to gain it. It's not this sort of idea that we're being trained by our environments to think that I can make the meaning in my own life. Or meaning is determined by the meaning I put in my own experiences. No. There is purpose there. Purpose has been set for us. Set for the whole entirety of the cosmos. Look at their last dua. They end up, when they realize their purpose, they say, فَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Protect us from the punishment of the fire. They realize that there's something that there needs protection for, that the end of it, the end of this life is not the end, that there's a real hereafter after this. And that's ultimately, that end is what they need protection from. With that realization comes motivation to do the right thing. Just as we said, like if I know that there's a material damage in drinking this liquid, if I know it, then I won't do it. If I know that there is an everlasting hellfire that awaits me if I do the wrong things, and there's an everlasting paradise that awaits me if I do the right thing, well then, I would have all the motivation I need to do the right things and avoid the wrong. So there's a corresponding, very, very clear relationship between our knowledge of reality, our understanding of what's real, and our actions. And that is the ultimate test for ourselves to see whether or not we actually believe in what we say we believe in. Sometimes people, say that, well, no, technically I can believe in the right thing, and I can just, make mistakes, or I can, fall into my desires and, commit a sin. And that is true, right? There are times when we can ignore what is right. But listen to that, what I'm saying. Ignore. At that moment that I chose to do the wrong thing, the thing that I know to be a sin, I had to convince myself that something was more important than the possible damages that that sin had. Perhaps I said that, like the brothers of Hazrat Yusuf, perhaps I said that I can do tawbah later on. I can ask God for forgiveness later on. Perhaps I said to myself, it's not that big of a deal. Or I've done other things. I've done other acts of ibadat, it'll cover it up. But there's that moment that I chose to do it. It wasn't like I was saying that this is definitely going to kill me and I'm going to drink it anyway. No. I can't do it. It's not something I can decide. It won't work for a healthy mind. And so if I'm truly seeing it as a sin, I can't do it. The only way I can do it is by convincing myself at that moment that it's not that bad. Now, as a temporary thing, as one moment, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy is vast, beyond our understanding. So much so beyond our understanding that His doors are so open. No matter what we do, there's a way back. His doors of mercy are always, always, always open. That is true. But sometimes we do so much damage, or the potential damage that we might do to ourselves, is that we lose that drive to turn back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The sign of it is this, that I no longer need to convince myself to do a sin. Rather, the sin becomes something normal to me. It becomes easy to me. And this is where one of the greatest blessings that we have is a guilty conscience. Greatest blessings. All of us have experienced times when we've fallen, when we've made mistakes. That guilty conscience we have is a greatest time to take our attention back towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and thank Him. Because it means that He still has hope for me. He still has hope that I can become better. But it all links back to that awareness of reality. Because if I don't do that, if I don't take advantage of that moment of guilty conscience, well, no person likes to stay guilty. No person likes to keep on feeling guilt time and time again. And so eventually, there'll be a time that if I let myself sink into that depth, that I'll convince myself that I don't need to feel guilty. And the only way I can change that is if I say that this is no longer a sin. This is no longer something bad. And the only way I can do that is if I change my understanding of my religion, of Islam. Either in a very minor way, right, by saying that maybe this individual act is not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted, or in a very major way, by saying, God doesn't exist. Right? But that's that path that it takes us. Our understanding of reality ties us to actions. And correspondingly the other way around. Our actions can transform and change and push us to believe something different about reality. And so we have to be conscious always of our actions. And that's why one of the greatest advice that we're always given about improving ourselves in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to have a regular, daily accounting of our actions. And every time we do something that's wrong and realize that we've done something wrong, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. We do tawbah immediately and have this firm determination, true tawbah, firm determination to not repeat that. And every time we see that we've done and achieved something good, we attribute it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we thank Him for the tawfiq and ask Him for more. And that's the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ. If we thank Him, then He'll increase us. Now, when we're looking at all of these things, it's easy to stick and stay to the level of the individual and say that, everything that we're talking about our religion, about Islam, about the obligations, the duties, everything that we talked about, we can fall into the easy trap of thinking about it as just me as a personal, individual belief system that exists between me and my Lord, and nothing else. But that's, again, as we mentioned yesterday, a false understanding of Islam. The vast majority of our obligations, of our duties, exist in a social setting. The rights and responsibilities between the mu'mineen. That's where the vast majority of what we have. And so correspondingly, the shifts in perspective and action that occur when we actually truly believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are much more vast when they apply on that social level compared to on the individual level. For example, let's say, right, we're all in this beautiful community right now, and this beautiful tent that's been decorated, that's been, gives this, alhamdulillah, this somber atmosphere of mourning. And we feel this togetherness, that we're here with each other, helping each other express our condolences to Imam Zain al-Abidin, to Imam Hussein al-Islam, to the caravan. But the question is, what next? Right? What do we do next? What's the next step? As a community, what are we going to achieve next? Where are we pushing ourselves more than where we are right now? Right? And that's a valid question. It should be a question that we should all be asking. Right? It's not a critique. It's just a valid question. What's the next step? For example, again, every single community you'll go to, right? The almost number one issue that's pointed out is the education of children. The education of the children that are growing up in that community. And how to safeguard their iman. And almost always, right, the solution is to have some sort of Islamic schooling. Right? The ultimate solution is that. But do we stop and think that, okay, if that is the actual solution, well then us as a community need to make steps so that that solution actually works. For example, if I don't have teachers in my community, well then I need to have teachers. I need to get teachers. Which means that if I'm recognizing that my community has this hole, this need, then what I will be pushing my children to do when they grow up is to satisfy this need. What I will see as the pinnacle of what they can achieve is by serving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by filling the gap within the society. I don't think in terms of, is this job the most financially secure? Is this the one that gives the most status? Is this the one that gives, I can brag about my child and say that, okay, they're in this, fancy occupation for this fancy company and they drive this car and no. The calculus and the algorithm of my decision making is not in that sense. It's based on what is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants me in my capacity as a member of this community to do for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If I've recognized that there is a gap, there's a hole that needs to be filled, then why don't I want myself or my children or whoever I can encourage to fill that? Naturally, what should happen if we look at this? Naturally, what should happen if we're all on this page together is that the status of the people who have these important roles, the most important roles within our communities, will become more and more and more. Not in the sense of a division of social strata or anything like that, no. But in the sense that we see that a teacher is devoting their life to the benefit of the whole of that community. That is their job. And so we see that as a precious commodity. And we would encourage people, streamline that path and push people to go there. And that's something very, very curious that we see. That despite almost every single parent that you ask, almost universally saying that the education of their children is the most important thing. Safeguarding their iman is the most important thing to them. But if you ask them, what occupation do you want your child to be? How many of them say that I want my child to be a teacher? If I'm recognizing the importance of it, then naturally I should want my children to take care of that very important role. Not to become an important person, but because it's important in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you see, that perspective, if we have it, changes the paradigm of our decision making. How we make those decisions immediately changes. It's not about that status anymore. It's not about the wealth. It's not about that. Those are secondary, if secondary, tertiary even. And the real importance becomes, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want from me? As an individual, as a family, as a community. If we have that as our guiding criteria of how we make decisions, things change drastically. Think about it on a more global level. Right? We have events happening. The brother mentioned Parachinar, mentioned what is happening in Palestine. There's oppression happening. We have to speak up. We have to do something. And no one is saying, right? No one is saying that we do things unwisely, or we do things without foresight or insight, or we do things without doing mashwara and asking for advice. No. We need knowledge of the situation. We need to have the right steps put forward. That's all in its own place. But it shouldn't be that we're making excuses for ourselves to not act. No, we need to move forward, push forward. The question we should be asking is, what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want from me? If Imam Hussein was here right now, what would he be standing up for? What would he be championing? Which cause would he be pushing forward? And if I identify myself with the caravan of Imam Hussein, then those causes should be my causes. Those movements should be my movements. I shouldn't be paralyzed by fear. That shouldn't be the reason why I stop. Again, this activism sometimes is taken in the wrong context, right? Sometimes it becomes, and has unfortunately recently become more and more of a thing of a fad, of a trend, that you speak up, you protest, you have this cause, you have that cause. And it almost is like a thing that I pat myself on the back, that I went and protested. I said this thing against this person, I said this thing, it becomes a thing of the ego. It's about me again. I'm the one who's taking care of this. I'm the one who's championing this cause. That's not the point. With me or without me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's purpose will be fulfilled. The me part of it is not crucial to the fulfillment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's goals. It's crucial for my sake. It's crucial for me to save myself. The whole point of it is that I'm doing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from me. And so it's not an expression of the ego, it's an expression of my servitude. It's an expression of me doing as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dictates. And that's where we see things change on a practical level too. I'm not taking steps because this is what is the most expedient thing to do politically, or what is the most popular step to take, or what is the easiest step forward. I'm taking steps because it's dictated by God's will. And as I said, yes, I accept there's a lot of confusion, there's a lot of difficulties finding out those details. What is it that exactly Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from me? There is difficulty, and I'm acknowledging that. And that's where we need the help of people, of experts, of scholars, of people who have insight to ground realities and practical steps that can be taken. That is all in its own place. When I'm talking about this perspective, when I've understood that this is the right step for me to take, then I see it now as an expression of me conforming to God's will. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from me. And this is where you see that true servitude of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not exist solely within prayer. Prayer is the most pure form of it. It's where everything about it is servitude. It's so overtly an act of servitude. But in reality, if we have the proper perspective, then everything about our lives becomes an act of servitude. Every moment, every walk, every step, every breath, every heartbeat becomes an act of servitude. If it's done with that perspective. That's the goal we're trying to push our lives to. And yes, it's a difficult goal. It's an ideal. It's perfection. And we're devoting our lives to strive for it. But that is the goal. If we shortchange ourselves by imagining our goal is something different, something lower, then when we aim for lower, then we'll even most likely miss even that and go even lower than that. Think about it in these terms. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that a certain thing is a sin and something else is wajib, then what He's saying is that for my own sake, this is what's needed for me. I need this. I need to do that thing that is wajib. I need to avoid that thing is haram. Which means that isma and infallibility at a certain level, not the level of the imams, that's a different type of isma, but at a certain level is attainable for you and I. And that's what we should be aiming for. And yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, as we said, is so incredibly vast. Every time we make a mistake, He's ready to accept us. Again and again and again. Right? On this topic, as a side point, I'll mention this. Right? There's beautiful du'as. One of the beautiful du'as that we have is Munajat al-Ta'ibin, the whispered prayer of the repentant ones. Right? That's been narrated by Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. Ma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Within it, he says, addressing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, أنت الذي فتحت بابا إلى غفرانك. You're the one who's opened a door towards your forgiveness. وسميته توبة. And you've called it tawbah. And then he asks a question, right? A rhetorical question. He asks a question. فما عذر? What's the excuse? من غفل دخول الباب بعد فتحه. What is the excuse of the one who forgets to enter the door after it's been opened? The door to God's forgiveness is open. That's open. We can become to the level of perfection, of isma. That's what we need to be aiming for. We can't think to ourselves that, oh, lying, yeah, they keep on saying lying is a major sin, but how can you not lie? Everybody lies. Everybody has a white lie. They lie over here, they lie over there. It's not possible. No, it is possible. It is possible. Yes, it's difficult. Not denying the difficulty of it, but it's possible. If I say to myself that it's impossible, then I'm already cutting off my efforts. I'm already saying that I can't do it. I can't even attain for it, so why should I even try? We have to aim with this in mind, that what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from me is attainable. Because I'm not depending on my will alone. Right? Remember, everything we have is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even my own will and determination and azm to do things and carry out what He asks from me is also granted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so if in the moment of weakness, right, this is the beautiful thing, that we can take every moment, the moment of strength that we have, the moment of weakness that we have, we can take every moment as an opportunity to turn towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The moments of strength are obvious, but the moment of weakness is too. I fall, but I take that moment of failure and I say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I plead in front of Him and I say that, look,
I've made a mistake. My will has fallen short. I know what I've done was wrong. But Ya Allah, You're the one who has made this wajib on me. You're the one who has made this haram. And if you've done it, then you know my shortcomings. You know that my will has fallen short. So shore up my will with your will. You make it so that I can stay away from that haram. That I'll always do that wajib. We use that moment of failure to turn it into a moment of success. By turning it into attention towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's how we need to be in front of Allah. That happens when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a real Lord and Master that's right in front of me. There's a conversation that was had between Hazrat Musa and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where he asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he asks, are you far away so that I should call out? فَنَادَيْتُهُ أَمْ قَرِيب فَنَاجَيْتُهُ. Are you far out in ba'id so that I should call out with a raised voice? Or are you close by so I can whisper to you? What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala respond? He says, أَنَا جَلِيسُ مَنْ ذَكَرَنِي. I'm sitting right next to the one who remembers me. I'm right there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala isn't some far off entity that we have to strive through different paths and difficulty to communicate with. No. Every moment is a moment of communication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If not with our words, then with our actions. Our existence itself is an expression of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's will. That's the type of realization we have to come to. That realization is what fuels that change in all these levels. When we see what the Imams have achieved throughout their lives, all of the Imams, despite all the difficulties that they faced, despite everything that was against them, and we see it's because of this attitude that they have in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is what allowed them to act with so much freedom. That is true freedom. Understanding that we are the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's a hadith narrated by Imam Hussein al-Islam where he says, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. He says, Ya ayyuhan nas, ما خلق الله العباد إلا ليعرفوه. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not create His servants except so that they may become aware of Him. فإذا عرفوا عبدوا. When they become aware of Him, they'll worship Him. فإذا عرفوا استغنى بعبادته عن عبادة ما سواه. Through that worship of Him, they become needless of worshipping anything else. That means that if I'm not worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then I'm definitively worshipping something else. And think about that in terms of reality. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the absolute, and everything else is a creation of Allah, and limited and deficient, that means if I'm not worshipping the absolute, I'm worshipping a deficient being. I've tied myself to a sinking ship. That's what servitude is. That's what freedom is. We have in the ayat of the Quran that one of the missions of the Prophet is this. It's in the middle of the ayah. It says, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وَيَدَعَ عَنْهُمْ إِسْرَهُمْ وَالْأَغْلَالَ الَّتِي كَانَتْ عَلَيْهِمْ. He came to relinquish the people from the chains and the burdens that are shackling them. It's not the chains that stop us to do things, right? That's how we think of freedom. The freedom to do X, Y, and Z. Because right before that, in the same verse, he said that he made halal the tayyibat and the haram the khaba'ith. So it's putting restrictions on what we can do. So it's not about freedom to do X, Y, and Z. It's freedom from the shackle of thinking that this world is all that there is. freedom from the shackle of thinking that we are independent beings that have the right to self-determination. No, we're not. We're utterly dependent beings. And determination is by Allah's will and no other. That's what allows things to change, these realizations. And I know a lot of what I've just said is abstract to some level. Maybe sometimes difficult to grasp these types of concepts. I'm not expecting and thinking that, even for myself, that just by saying these words magically something changes. No. The hard thing is to ponder and reflect and ask the difficult questions of ourselves. But you know what makes this easier? What makes this 100 times, 1,000 times easier is if I'm not the only one asking the question. If you're asking it too. Not only asking it in the privacy of your own brain, but rather asking it of me, in front of me. And I'm asking it of you, in front of you. What are you doing with your life? Is our lives truly directed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our belief in Him? Or is it not? Why is it? Why is it that our gatherings, even the gatherings of the mu'mineen, it's a blessing, it's a great blessing that we have it. But we look at it, and a lot of times it doesn't have any Islamic content in it. Is it not such a natural thing to do? That if a group of brothers, a group of sisters, friends are gathered together, and they're mu'mineen, they say, hey, we just met together, someone open the Quran and recite a surah. Say a few lines of the Quran as a remembrance. Make this gathering more than just entertainment and having fun. Sure, have fun, entertainment, it's all good. But why can't we make it so that we're conscious at the time of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well? It's not that difficult. It's awkward. For sure it's awkward. Especially if you're the one to push it. You're the awkward one that has to put yourself in that place and say in front of the people, hey, let's do a salawat louder. Hey, let's do this. Let's recite the Quran. Let's do this. Yeah, you're the person that people say, oh, you think you're holier than thou. You're the, you think that you're going to go to Hawza. You think you're doing this. That's, yeah, people say that. But we have to suck it up and bear it. Right? It's not that big of a deal. Right? Let's have that awkward moment in front of our friends. Be awkward and say it in front of them. Let's do it. It doesn't cost us much. It doesn't. It's interesting. And I don't mean this as a critique to any of the brothers who are listening, if they are listening to the speech. But through the course of this Muharram that I've gone to a few different places, it's interesting. In almost every single seating of brothers that I've had, right, when we go to someone's house or hung out, late at night or anything like that, the number one piece of conversation was about the food scene, the halal food scene of that particular city, and how it's either better or worse than the halal food scene of a different. And alhamdulillah, at the very least, we're talking about halal food, and that's a good thing, right? I'm really appreciative of that. That they're seeking halal food. That's a great thing. It is really, really great. I'm not trying to undermine that at all. But that's it, right? That's it. Right? That's all we can talk about in terms of halal is just the food. Right? We can take it up a notch. Right? That's a start, but let's go more. Right? And alhamdulillah, I think us and our presence here is a sign of that we are ready to do that. Right? It's a weekday. It's not as if this is some fun gathering where we're having so much entertainment. So yes, our presence here is an expression at some level of some desire for more. It is there within us. Right? Let's not shortchange ourselves. We have that within us. We have that capacity and the desire for more. But sometimes it requires a push. So let's be that push for each other. That is not just an extra thing in service that I can do for you. That is the right you have over me. And that is the right I have over you. that you be that extra push when I need it. That's not a mustahab thing. That's something that's needed, necessary. There's a verse in the Quran, I'm forgetting the exact wording of it, but it's along the lines of this, that the first verse says something along the lines that the people who are kuffar are cursed on the tongues of Hazrat Dawood and Isa, right? Because of the transgressions that they've done. Then the next ayah says, it describes a transgression, a specific one. It says they would not do this thing, la yatanahuna, I think, if I'm remembering correct. They wouldn't forbid each other from the munkar, from the bad deeds that they used to do. That's the thing that we need to do. We have to have this thing of looking in front of our brother and sister in Iman and say, I think we can do better. Right? Not in a rude way. Not in a way of like, I'm holier than thou or anything like that. It's not about me again. Me expressing that is not about me feeling better about myself and saying that I'm superior. It's purely an expression of my servitude to Allah SWT. If we do it with that perspective, then we do it with love. We do it with respect. We do it with the utmost amount of tolerance. But that's how we need to be with each other. Otherwise, if we don't do that, then I'm depending on solely my own will to ensure that I do everything right. And that's a losing proposition, especially in the environments we're in. If I'm dependent only and only on myself, then who knows if one time I'll fall and I won't be able to pick myself up. So I need you. I need you to help me up. And because Allah SWT has put that as a right that I have over you and a responsibility you have to me, and the same vice versa, then that means to some level I own a piece of your life. And you own a piece of my life. It's not solely mine and it's not solely yours. We're not the ultimate owners of our lives. Allah SWT is the owner. We're the custodians. A custodian just does what the master wants. Their will doesn't dictate what they do with what's in their hands. If we look at our relations from that lens, it becomes such a beautiful thing. Brotherhood becomes real. Sisterhood becomes real, meaningful, impactful, deep. Not the surface level click of a friend and I'm friends with you. Not like that. Not fleeting, not a thing of a factor of likes and views and things like that. No. Of deep meaning. Life-changing. Dying for each other. Living for each other. And yes, it requires the right people. But that's where we need to push each other. To become the right people. That in a microcosm is what we see within the caravan of Imam Hussain. Can you see? Imagine Imam Hussain. He says, statement narrated from, says, Ala wa inna da'i ibn da'i. Says, and know that this person, this illegitimate person, son of an illegitimate person, is calling out to me between bayn ithnatain, between two things. Bayn as-silla wa dhilla, wa hayhat minna dhilla. He's calling me between two things. Either going to under the sword, or being humilified and humilifying myself in front of him. And far be humility from me. Imam Hussein's perspective is that. That's the perspective of this caravan. They've bought that with their lives. It's not a sentiment of the tongue. We say hayhat min adillah, but it's not just of the tongue, it's their actions that demonstrated it. They lived it and they died it. That's how they were. If you look on the night of Ashura, when everything was at its last moments, last night of their lives, they're busying themselves with ibadah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's their concern. Think about it. We all know the stories. Imam Hussein brings them to a tent, right? Turns off the lights. Says to them, I relinquish all of you from the oaths you've had. If you're feeling ashamed, take one of my Ahlul Bayt and go. How do they respond? How do they respond? They say that if we're to die, if we're to live and you're to die, how are we supposed to have meaning in our lives without you? Our lives are defined by you being our leader. If that part of it is erased, then what is left? That's walking the walk. That's the essence of what we're looking at in Karbala. That's what we're looking for in ourselves as well, inshallah. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Dear brothers and sisters, we're here to commemorate the death and martyrdom of Imam Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam. It's narrated that he was poisoned, and when he was nearing his last moments in this world, it's narrated that he had a wasiyah to his son, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, where he says that I have a last will and wasiyah to you. And this will is that which what my father, Imam Hussein, said to me as his last will. Isbar ala al-haq wa in kana murra. Be patient and tolerant on the path of the truth, even if it be bitter. Dear brothers and sisters, Zain al-Abidin alayhi salam, as he's saying and relating the last words that Imam Hussein said to him in Karbala, what is he saying and thinking? La yawm ka yawmaka ya Aba Abdullah. There's no day like yours. Is he thinking back to the moment when Imam Hussein went into the battlefield to come to the body of Ali al-Akbar and finding his body cut into pieces, irban, irba, and then Imam Hussein cries out saying, ala dunya ba'daka al-afa. There's no meaning in this world after you. Is he thinking to the time when Qasim, the remember of Imam Hussein for his brother, the reminder of his brother, the trustee, the trust that his brother put into his hands, when he went into the battlefield and called out, Ya Amma, he called out to his uncle, and Imam Hussein goes and rushes, and he finds himself, and then Maqtal says his feet are striking the ground. And he says, Azza wallah alam. It's so difficult upon your uncle that you call upon him, fala yujib, that you call upon him and he can't answer. Is Imam Sajjad that the time comes when Abbas is laid down on the field of Karbala. And Imam Hussein reaches the body and says, Alan inkasara dhahri. Now my back has been broken. Or is he thinking that there's a time when they've all fallen, when Imam Hussein has also fallen, and he hears a cry from Tilda Zainabiyya saying, Wa Muhammada, Wa Aliya, وحمزة وحسنا صلى عليك مليك السماء هذا حسين بالعراء مرمل بالدماء مقطع الأعذار. This is Hussein laid bare on the sands. He's drenched in his blood and his limbs have been severed. But dear brothers and sisters, we know that a time comes when Imam Zain al-Abidin is asked, what is the most difficult time that he suffered? And he says, Asham, Asham, Asham. So perhaps he's thinking of that prison in Sham, of that perhaps that there being a little girl that's put under a lash, and perhaps there being a small grave being dug in that prison. على لعنة الله على قوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. ماتم حسين يا حسين.
Ya Hussein. Brothers, please move forward from Matam. Ya Hussein. 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 Now it is done, all is done. Hussein has been slain, so have his sons. Nobody remains to help children. Nobody remains to help Zainab. With heads on spears, ill and in chains, dragged through the streets, thrown into shame. With heads on spears, ill and in chains, dragged through the streets, thrown into shame. لا أرى الموت إلا السعادة، لا حياة إلا الشهادة، لا حياة إلا الشهادة. لا أرى الموت إلا السعادة، لا حياة إلا الشهادة، لا حياة إلا. Now it is done, all is done. Hussein has been slain, so have his sons. Nobody remains to help children. Nobody remains to help Zainab. With heads on spears, ill and in chains, dragged through the streets, thrown into shame. With heads on spears, ill and in chains, dragged through the streets, thrown into shame. لا أرى الموت إلا السعادة، لا حياة إلا الشهادة، لا حياة إلا الشهادة. لا أرى الموت إلا السعادة، لا حياة إلا الشهادة، لا إلا الشهادة. O Imam Sajjad, 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 O Imam Sajjad. The promise is revoked, it's time to leave here. The desert sand is soaked, your brother's blood here. The chains around your neck are covered in tears. O Imam Sajjad, 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 O Imam You saw your father killed, the just descendant, alone and without help, in thirst and torment. It's ringing in your head, the screams in his tent. O Imam Sajjad, 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 O Imam Sajjad. You hear your nieces cry, the prophet's daughters. You gaze upon the sky, I want my father. They have nobody left, but now there's water. O Imam Sajjad, O Imam Sajjad, O Imam Sajjad, O Imam Sajjad. We will always love you, O Hussein. No man is above you, O Hussein. You will remain in our hearts. I salute you, Hussein. I salute you, Hussein. I salute you, Hussein. I salute you, Hussein. How can we ever forget that day of your sacrifice? We are not able to control the tears from our eyes. In this world, wherever, O Hussein, we will cry forever, O Hussein. You will remain in our hearts. I salute you, Hussein. I salute you, Hussein. I salute you, Hussein. I salute you, Hussein. Whenever we are in trouble or need help, you are always there. It doesn't matter what time or which place, you are everywhere. Every step by our side, O Hussein, as our leader and our guide, O Hussein. You will remain in our hearts. I salute you, Hussein. I salute you, Hussein. I salute you, Hussein. I salute you, Hussein. The Shia Muslims of today wish we were by your side, to do anything to support you. We would have tried to stand by your side, O Hussein. We would give our life, O Hussein. You will remain in our hearts. hearts. I salute you, Saint. I salute you, Saint. I salute you, Saint. I salute you, Hussein. Take me to Karbala, leave me there. Take me to Karbala, leave me there. Take me to Karbala, leave me there, leave me there. Take me to Karbala, leave me there. Take me to Karbala, leave me there. Take me to Karbala, leave me there, leave me there. Hussein, bye. Hussein, bye. Hussein, bye. Hussein, bye. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا محمد بن عبد الله. السلام عليك يا علي بن أبي طالب يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي المجتبى. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. Everyone. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. السلام عليك يا علي بن حسين زين العابدين وقرة عين الناظرين. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي باقر علم النبيين. السلام عليك يا جعفر بن محمد الصادق البار الأمين. السلام عليك يا موسى بن جعفر الكاذب. السلام عليك يا غريب الغرباء. السلام عليك يا معين الضعفاء والفقراء. السلطان أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى الرضا. السلام عليك يا محمد بن علي أيها الجواد التقي. السلام عليك يا علي بن محمد أيها الهادي النقي. السلام عليك يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري. السلام عليك يا حجة بن الحسن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا مظهر الإيمان. السلام عليك يا إمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وصل الله مخرجك وظهورك، وجعلنا من أعوانك وأنصارك والمستشهدين بين يديك. السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد.